Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Doop-a-doo. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Storytime with Scrappy and Friends. My name is ScrappyFan92. With me today are Harry, Raider Ran.
Alright, I'm back.
We just started. So,
Oh my fucking god.
He literally showed up as his name was called.
That's amazing.
That is great timing.
so yeah, with me today are Harry, Raider Ran, Baka030, and N the Ultimate.
Excuse me.
The mute button is free, Harry.
It's kind of hard when I have my hands on a controller.
Just use a hotkey. What the?
Okay, so last session we read the Little Mermaid Power Rangers edition, I guess, and we're doing that again because it's Memorial Day weekend. Little Mermaid came out in theaters. I watched it. It didn't suck.
Oh, that's
it
crazy.
Hi, Chili, by the way.
What
Welcome.
about that song people were dunking on Twitter? How about that song?
It was alright. So, chill on WYT. I don't know how to pronounce that, but hello, welcome.
That's someone that shows up in my solo streams.
Well, this ain't solo today. Last session, Madison the Mermaid has been put basically on, I don't know, what do you call it, house arrest? She's grounded, has a chaperone with her.
Grounded.
Same thing.
I guess when your father is the law, yeah.
Yeah.
So she can't go
grounded for 5, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. As a wait, it's 2023. Who the hell knows about Go Anime anymore?
Okay. So Madison has a chaperone. Her father's an advisor, Toby, is serving that role, and she can't go to the service anymore. Or can she?
Find out on this exciting episode of Dragon Ball.
Sonic X.
Sonic X! That works too!
Well, Sonic X and Dragon Ball Z are the same show, so we're fine.
Exactly.
And since Nova is not here, Baka will be taking over his roles with no context given whatsoever beyond what I just told him.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, your keyboard is broken, Chili. I'm sorry to hear that. Wait, is it Chilla YWWYT or is it Chillawit?
I don't know. That's why I just say Chili.
Yeah,
we will find out. We will find out in another episode. So yeah, since my family is here downstairs, yeah, they're downstairs. So we gotta make this a short session. So we're gonna start right now.
Perfect.
This
Awesome.
is the Little Mermaid. Pardon.
So jumping right into the water.
Yep. This is The Little Mermaid by Princess Belle, Prince Adam. Madison tried not to hate her punishment. It was not Toby's fault that King Daggeron had given him the job of Madison's babysitter. She slowly got used to the elder merman following her about. Vita still hardly spoke to her sister. She was angered at Maddie's love for the humans. Ashamed that her shy, responsible sister would be so disloyal to the Queen's memory. The Blue Princess took this punishment quietly as well. She had no words She had no words that would convince her sister of her remorse, because she possessed none. Madison cherished her time at the surface, and nothing could ever lead her to regret her visits. Chip was not as content as the sister's silence. He tried in vain to get the furious Vita and the indifferent Madison to speak civilly. He went back and forth between the blue and pink princesses with different arguments. The mutual friend of the future rulers was determined for things to go back to the way they had been.
Vita remained stubborn as ever.
Chip reported one afternoon as he joined Madison and her chaperone for a leisurely swim through one of the beautiful royal beautiful royal gardens.
But do not fret. Soon, things will be as they once were.
The Yellow Merman gave his old friend a smile. Madison hardly shrugged at this news. She was depressed, but not her sister's refusal to communicate. How she wanted the surface, to feel the sun on her shoulders and back, to talk to Xander, to see the prince. The princess shook her head, running her fingers through her silky raven-colored hair.
Thank you for trying, Chip.
Madison mumbled, feigning interest in a bed of bright blue and red flowers. Vita's stubborn streak was a mile wide, and the youngest princess had long since given up attempting to talk sense into the elder pink mermaid. Princess? Asked Toby from somewhere behind the young royal and her oldest friend. I am supposed to report to the king soon. Shall we start back to home? Okay. Madison took one last look around the garden. She was not ready to give up this little outing yet. It was not exactly what she desired, but at least it was outside of the palace. Over the last few weeks, she had grown tired of the castle walls. After taking in a few more details, the Blue Mermaid slowly nodded and turned to follow Toby.
Oh, wait.
Wait, what?
Loading.
I pressed the bubble, like, because those are the lines of ooze. We decided to press the bubble.
Oh yeah, I didn't hear them. Like,
Yeah,
I thought I pressed the hotkey, whatever. Here at that time?
no,
Yeah, I'm like,
that works.
The Little Mermaid was not the only royal to want more freedom. Prince Nick was being kept closer to his mother than usual after the near tragedy that had occurred on his birthday. His father had suggested Nick try looking at things from his mother's perspective. Nick tried to imagine he was in Queen Udana's place. He tried to pretend he had only one child who was far too eager to be a hero to his country. Grudgingly, he accepted how much he meant to his mother, and promised himself he would tone his hopes of being a warrior down, so as not to upset her more. But as for the other promise he had made to himself, he kept it. He made various excuses every day and made his way down to the warm sand and relaxed. He desperately wanted to see that beautiful girl again, to know that she was real and not a figment of his imagination. He had been making trips to the beach daily for 2 weeks, and the girl had yet to come back. Nick was disappointed in this, but he was not going to give up just yet. The Prince of Briar Woods had generously decided he would give the mysterious young maiden a month to show herself. Then, if he did not see her again, he would realize he had made the whole thing up and would never think of it again. Though his rescuer had yet to reveal herself, the prince was not always alone. Sometimes he saw the young noble Xander Bly pacing the shore, almost as if he too were waiting for someone. If he ever noticed that Nick was there, however, he never let on. The beach was quiet, save for the crashing of the waves on the shore. One day, Nick stayed later than he normally did. The moon had risen, its two white light shining on the smooth surface of the dark water. The prince was alone. Xander had not come today. For a moment, Nick felt that if the girl was going to come at all, it would be under the cover of the moonlight. She did not. Alone, Nicholas made his way back to the castle. Madison tossed and turned in her bed that night. She had dreams of her mother sprawled on the very beach where Madison talked to Xander. In the dreams, her mother was face down in the sand, unmoving. Xander was standing over her, an evil smile on his face. Then he morphed into the prince, and something about this broke Madison's heart. She woke up, her heart thumping rapidly in her chest. As Madison's heart rate slowly returned to normal, she shivered at the memory of her horrifying nightmare. The thought of Xander or Prince Nicholas involved in Mother's murder. Mother. If only Mother were here. The blue mermaid sat up, tucking her braid behind her shoulder. Something important had just occurred to her. Quietly, Maddie got out of her bed and left she and Vita's bedchamber. She had only one destination in mind, her father's throne room. There were few guards stationed in the castle at this time of night. The focus was on the outside of the palace. Madison liked this system. No one would question why the princess was wandering in the middle of the night. She stopped outside of the ornate doors separating the throne room from the rest of the palace. She took one deep breath and then released it before pushing the door open slowly. Madison swam the length of the hall easily, heading straight to the magnificent throne room from which King Daggeron ruled Atlantis. Over the throne hung a picture of the late queen. The little mermaid gave a quiet sigh before smiling sadly.
Hello, Mother.
The young princess rose easily through the water to touch the portrait of her mother, her deep brown eyes shining with unshed tears.
I miss you.
Madison told the portrait.
I wish you were here. You could tell Father and Vita not to be angry with me. You loved it too, didn't you, Mother?
She sighed again wistfully.
What would you say if you were here? What advice would you give me? Mother, I think that I love him.
Then Maddie was certain she heard her mother's voice, clear as day. Follow your heart. As soon as the voice stopped talking, Madison heard the door open again to reveal her father.
This is my line, right?
Correct.
What are you doing up at this hour, Madison?
The king demanded. Then he noticed how close she was to the painting of his queen. He softened a bit, putting his arm around Madison's shoulders as he reached her side.
I understand now.
The blue princess snapped at the king.
I'm not so certain that you do. Mother loved them too, did she not? For what other reason would she have been at the surface that day?
Yes, she did enjoy visiting them. She often tried to use their ideas to make our kingdom better. But look what happened to Julia, Madison.
I bid you good night, Father. I do not wish to discuss this anymore.
The youngest royal left her father alone in the throne room. She was going to take the advice her mother had given her, and she already knew who could help her. Nick slipped from his... Pardon?
Sorry, yeah. Look, I need to press the bubble button.
It's important to the story.
You don't understand, we need the bubble button.
Yeah, the secret ending isn't going to make any sense if we don't do the bubble.
I'm not really hearing the bubble.
Yeah, me neither.
Dang it, yeah, my mic thing has been really weird recently.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Insert the Arthur scene change noise here.
Nick slipped from his palace early the next morning. He arrived at the beach, subconsciously finding his usual spot. Maybe today he would see the girl. The prince looked out onto the horizon, watching as the sun shone down on the ocean and made it sparkle. It was a beautiful, serene sight, but it made the prince long for adventure. He wished he could be out on the open sea in a fine ship, traveling the world as he saw fit, answering to no one.
If only I hadn't been born as the Prince of Briar Woods, to an overprotective mother at that.
Nick thought sullenly.
Any other boy could sign on as a sailor and be done with it.
Nick let out a sigh before lying down on the warm sand and closing his eyes.
Yeah, it's not working, dang.
The metal pipe sound effect.
Madison and her constant companion went out into the village square early the next day. Already, the kingdom was bustling, the vendors yelling to potential customers. Near the big fountain, Chip was waiting for the Blue Princess. The first thing he noticed was that Madison looked especially cheerful this morning. They began to swim ahead of Toby so he couldn't hear them, but carefully remained in his line of sight.
So, Maddie, what makes you so chipper today?
The Yellow Merman asked of his friend.
I have a solution. You have to help me, though.
Here the little mermaid bit her lip, her eyes pleading with her companion to help.
Sure.
I am going to get out of here. I'm going to see Necroli.
And that is the end of chapter 6. Alright, 7th and final chapter of this session.
Alright, switching now.
Also, I believe I found the solution. I can just add the bubbles to the soundboard in the server.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, Discord soundboard. Do you have permission to do that?
yeah, I can. I'm in the settings for it right now.
Oh.
That's amazing.
Okay, before we move on to the next chapter, I just want to say, god damn, there's so much narration.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was purely narration only.
It's not the first story where that's the case.
Yep.
Hey, it's fine. At least it was good narration.
Okay, so here we are, chapter 7, which is titled Chapter 7.
Well, truly, it was the chapter of all time.
The look on the princess's oldest friend's face was incredulous. For a split second, Madison felt self-conscious. Surely, her idea wasn't that crazy.
Chip, please help me. I have to see him again.
But the Yellow Merman shook his head, his eyes wide with horror.
Necroli is not to be trusted.
Chip said firmly.
That much is common knowledge. Why else would parents warn their children of her since birth? Madison, if it were anything else, you know I would assist you. This I won't help you with. And please, forget Necroli. She'd hurt you before she'd help you.
You don't understand. No one does. I've never felt this way about anyone before. I can't stop thinking about him.
Madison moved closer to her friend, her eyes pleading with him. Then she looked to see that Toby was not close enough to overhear, and found that he was examining trinkets at a vendor's booth. The Blue Princess smiled in relief before turning back to Chip. Chip lowered his gaze to the cobbled street that made up the main road of the kingdom.
Maddie.
He groaned quietly before looking up again. He locked gazes with her and finally nodded.
When do you want to do this?
Madison's face lit up with a huge smile.
As soon as possible. How about right now?
The red-haired merman let out a sigh.
lose my nerve. Honestly, I would expect this from Vita, Maddie, but not you.
Chip looked over at Madison's babysitter and saw that he was coming closer. Quickly, Chip hugged the youngest princess.
Be careful.
She bobbed her dark head.
Thank you.
Then Maddie casually swam over to a different booth, pretending to be interested in the charms for sale. She glanced at Chip. Pardon?
Casually swan over to a different move.
Look, they got swans in the ocean sometimes, I think.
Maybe in the shallow end.
Those goddamn swans under the sea, man.
Yep. Pretending to be interested in the charms for sale, she glanced at Chip and saw he had already distracted Toby. The two mermen were engaged in conversation, and there was no way her babysitter could possibly spot her amongst a crowd. Her heart beating at what felt like twice its normal speed, the Blue Mermaid took off to Atlantis.
Yo!
Thank you.
We got it.
Humanity restored.
Nick sat up. He was still on the beach under the warm sun, but now it appeared he had company. At the ocean's edge, a boy and girl stood, staring at each other. They appeared to be around his age, and he smiled slightly. He could tell they weren't from nobility, even from a distance. Just as he was about to slip away, he saw them lean in to embrace. After a moment of this, the young man took his companion's face in his hand before leaning down to kiss her.
I want that.
Flashed through the prince's mind.
If only that girl would come back. Okay, what was the point? That was such a short bit.
The jump cut.
This is staged like a movie, basically.
Yeah.
Like they're both longing for each other, Maddie and Nick.
I know, but like, did they have to be separated by oars?
And a very minimal orchestra composed by John Williams was playing in the background.
I'm sorry, that ooh sound like a Kremlin getting hit in Donkey Kong Country.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
Anyway, Madison was well outside the safety of her kingdom now. She was a little nervous as she moved further away from Atlantis. Necroli was reported to be dangerous. Chip was right about that. Maddie was unsure of what Necroli would be willing to do for a princess, but she had to try. Like the other young mer people of Atlantis, Madison knew the legends. Necroli had once been a mermaid, living in the kingdom Maddie would one day rule. Necroli had been a beautiful young mermaid. She was a good daughter, helping her mother at her shop. She had been well regarded throughout the kingdom, until it was discovered that she dabbled in ancient spells, magic that had long been illegal in Atlantis. Once discovered, she was tried and found guilty of practicing dark magic. She put up a fight, firing her black curses at everyone who tried to secure her. She managed to hit King Niall square in the chest, killing him instantly. A young Prince Daggeron took his father's Triton, swimming up to meet Necroli and finish the fight Niall had lost. As Necroli paused to regroup, the young prince took his chance. He aimed the weapon at the murderess, releasing a bolt of golden light at his enemy. Necroli was transformed from purple-tailed mermaid to a mutilated hybrid. She now possessed 8 violet tentacles instead of her tail. Having humiliated her, the new king started his reign by showing a bit of mercy. He offered Necroli a deal. She was now powerless to perform evil magics, but if she so desired, she could mix helpful potions, so long as she didn't set up shop in the kingdom. Being that her only other option was jail, Necroli agreed. She was relatively quiet, living in a cave far outside the kingdom's borders. The understanding was that she was normally sought out by young girls wanting concoctions to make boys fall in love with them. But every so often, one of those girls disappeared. Madison reminded herself as she reached the purple cave where Necroli lived. She hesitated for the first time since she'd convinced Chip to help her. Did she really want to go through with this? She thought of Chip, her loyal best friend, of Vita, her stubborn sister, of her hot-headed father. The prince's handsome face flashed through her mind, making her remember just how badly she wanted to see him again. She had to explain why she had left so abruptly, and if she was able to get help from Necroli, she could learn so many things. All the information she had gotten from Xander over the years could finally be put to use. She could pick up where Mother left off. Feeling brave again, Madison swam into the cave without another doubt. Toby was growing suspicious of the younger merman. It was odd that the redhead would approach him like he had, and just babble about nonsense. And where exactly was Princess Madison? If anything happened to her on his watch, the king would murder him on the spot. Chip was now going into great detail about the clownfish he had kept as a pet when he was a child.
Nemo wasn't afraid of anything.
Feeling he could no longer pretend to be interested in Chip's childhood, Toby put a hand on Chip's shoulder, patting the yellow merman awkwardly. That's great. Now tell me something. Where is the princess?
Well, it's a funny story.
Chip looked at the older merman, a nervous smile on his face. Toby folded his arms across his chest, clearly wanting a better explanation. I'll ask you again, where is Madison? The last time I saw her, she was with you. Was she planning to do something she shouldn't be doing? He watched Chip carefully. The oldest friend of the two princesses lowered his tawny gaze, and Toby knew that the other merman had indeed acted as a decoy for Maddie. Toby groaned, rubbing his temples. Do you realize just how much trouble we are going to be in? We have to bring her home. He swam off towards the palace. When Chip realized what Toby's intention was, he raced after him.
You can't tell King Daggeron.
I have to. I want to tell him you distracted me so Madison could sneak off to see that human boy on the beach. The red-headed merman scrunched up his face and blurted.
She's not at the surface.
King Daggeron's curly-haired advisor turned slowly to look at Chip. Then where is she? He questioned in a steady, deliberate voice. If she's not with the humans, where did she go? Chip was silent, debating with himself. He wanted to do the right thing. He just wasn't sure what that was. Maddie had turned to him for help because she trusted him. He should respect her enough to keep her secret. On the other hand, who knew what the sea witch would do to a daughter of King Daggeron? Is the princess in trouble? If she is, you need to tell me, hinted Toby.
She went to see Necroli.
Chip admitted finally.
She wants to be human, so she can be with her prince.
Toby turned again, swimming at twice the speed he had before. King Daggeron needs to know, now. He was shaking his head as he continued towards the castle. Can't believe you would help her visit the Sea Witch. Do you want her to be killed? The Yellow Merman's face clouded clouded with hurt.
That's not fair. She was so sad, Toby. I think she really cares about him. But you're right, Necroli is dangerous. And if Maddie is in trouble, we can't wait for Dagger Hunt to gather his soldiers. Let's go. Just us.
Toby nodded in agreement. If she's really with Necroli, she'll need help. Maybe we can get there in time to change the princess's mind. And the two mermen turned and went back the way they had come, hoping they wouldn't be too late.
No, right.
Hello?
Madison called as she entered Necroli's lair.
I want to ask you a favor.
The raven-haired princess ventured further, noticing that there was a strange fog coming from the back of the cave. She tried again.
Necroli?
And suddenly, the thick gray smoke was gone. Necroli came forward, a seemingly kind smile on her face.
Well, what have we here? One of Julia and Daggeron's girls, no doubt.
She took a good look at Maddie's face and questioned.
Madison?
The younger princess nodded, smiling back. Maybe the Sea Witch was not truly as evil as Maddie had always been told.
I do not know what to do, Necroli. I think I am in love, but my father and sister do not approve of the match.
Necroli's expression was a mask of sympathy. She moved to the young princess's side, wrapping an arm around her shoulders.
My poor darling.
She cooed.
Tell me, child, why is it that your family doesn't wish for you to be happy?
Madison looked up, her big tawny eyes round and sad.
He is human.
She whispered.
Vita says I betray mother's memory. Father says I am not to see him. I see. How did you meet this boy?
Poor Madison was so desperate for help that she didn't realize Necroli was carefully forming the beginnings of a plan. The princess told Necroli of how she had been at the surface. Her father's anger had been taken out on the humans and caused a terrible storm. A boy had nearly drowned, but she had saved him.
I was just so happy he was alright that I sang to him.
Madison finished.
Hold on, I'm like scatterbrained. I'm losing my place.
Oh, you too?
Then he woke and started to ask questions. I left before he could see what I am.
As she finished her sad story, the most heartbroken look crossed her face. Necroli could tell this one would require almost no persuasion. The cunning sea witch nodded, her sympathetic mask still in place.
Say no more, dear. I know just how to help you. I have a tonic that can transform you into whatever creature you desire.
Necroli opened a small chest, rummaging carefully through the collection of bottles. She presented Madison with a pale blue potion. Eager as the young princess was to walk on land, she was sure there had to be some kind of catch.
I can have this. How much do I owe you, Necroli?
Madison started to open her blue coin purse, goodness. But the sea witch stopped her hastily.
I don't take that kind of payment, darling princess. I require something a little more binding. You see, my dear Madison, these potions I make take time and energy to brew properly. They're quite an investment, and I've discovered some young girls like yourself come back to me very unhappy.
Madison's face scrunched into a puzzled frown.
Why? Don't the tonics work?
Necroli smoothed a hand of the young princess's raven-colored hair soothingly.
But of course, dear. It's the girls who try to fool me. So, instead of collecting payment in coins, I thought up my little contracts.
Before the Blue Mermaid had time to react, the two were joined by people close to the princess. We're not too late, Toby said, relieved. He was at Madison's side in an instant, hand closing around her wrist. Come on, princess. I'm taking you to the castle, where you can explain this little stunt to King Daggeron. Madison broke her babysitter's grip easily.
Chip, you promised!
She stared hard at her yellow-scaled friend, her big chocolate eyes filling with tears. The Blue Princess shook her head before turning back to Necroli.
Contract?
The Sea Witch picked up where she'd left off, as if there hadn't been an interruption at all.
Before I let my girls drink their tonics, I make them... Okay, yeah, I thought I misread that. Before I let my girls drink their tonics, I make them sign a contract. There are certain conditions they have to meet, or suffer the consequences.
She paused, looking thoughtful.
You may have the potion, but in return, I want your voice.
Don't do it, Manny.
Pleaded Chip. Princess, Chip is right, added Toby. You can't. Necroli spoke again.
In addition, if you love the prince and are to be happy with him, you will have 3 days for him to kiss you.
Madison looked down at the little jar in her hands. She could be a human with a swallow. She could be a human with the jar of the blue potion, but giving up her voice. It was worth it. She decided as the prince's face crossed her mind once more.
I'll sign.
Necroli smiled, and with a wave of her hand, a scroll appeared. She unrolled it and handed it to Madison, still smiling. The princess was given a pen, and waited for further instructions. There were none. Slowly, Madison began to sign. Princess Madison. Necroli read the last clause of the contract to the younger girl.
The princess has 3 days in which to kiss her prince. If she meets this requirement, her voice will be returned to her and she will live happily ever after. If not, she will immediately be summoned here and become part of my garden.
Garden? Toby asked suspiciously. Necroli pointed, and the princess noticed for the first time a small plot of what appeared to be strange gray plants.
A small plot hole.
Strange gray plants. With eyes? The yellow mermaid cast a pleading look at the princess.
I said I was going to sign.
And she finished her signature, the final statement reading, Princess Madison Elizabeth Roca. The Sea Witch grinned as the contract was sealed.
Excellent. Now, as per our agreement...
Necroli collected a small shell and held it out.
Sing into this, dear.
With one last look at Chip and Toby, Madison sang one long note until told to stop. She tried to thank Necroli, but no sound escaped her lips. She smiled instead before pulling the stopper off of the small bottle. She downed the blue liquid. Instantly, an aquamarine cloud enveloped, surrounded Madison's body. As it drifted away, the two mermen saw what it had done to her. Gone was her tail fin, and in its place were two legs. She looked pleased for a moment, but quickly the happiness was gone, and a panic expression was in its place. Poor Maddie couldn't breathe underwater. Luckily, Chip realized what was wrong right away.
We can't let her drown.
He told Toby. They each seized one of the princess's arms and began to tow her up towards the surface, wondering just what they were going to do now.
I keep thinking Buck is voicing like Solid Snake or something.
That's exactly what I was thinking too.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for.
Oh my god.
Oh.
My name is Chip, and I'm the bigger boss.
Bigger boss.
Wow.
Okay, well, 40 minutes, not bad.
Yeah, I was expecting that was a fairly beefy chapter, all things considered. Like for this story.
Didn't feel like it took that long though.
Compared to the chapters 1 through 5, yes, but compared to other stuff we've read, no.
No, yeah, definitely not compared to other stories, but like compared to the first chapter you guys read today, like that was a lot longer.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy it well enough. There's definitely, even if the story is so far mostly one-to-one with the Disney film, there's definitely a different nature to the proceedings when the musical numbers are taken away. Red Man, congrats for voicing Madison and Necroli. Like for basically half the chapter. I know that. I can't imagine that was actually easy.
No, it was fine. My main issue was that I actually never quit Genshin because I had Spiggles. I had Spiggles in my world, and I didn't want to tell him. Hey, I need to go.
I've got
that's a
Mermaid
mood.
fanfiction to read.
That's a mood. It's you don't want to disappoint people.
Yeah, so that was my issue.
Well, the story, we're not halfway done yet, but we're getting to the land portion now, so...
Shit's about to get wacky. I heard this was secretly Power Rangers, and I'm curious as to know how.
The characters are Power Rangers.
It's just character replacement. You know the spiel.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So there's really nothing different. It's just character names replaced by others for essentially.
There will be deviations. There will be deviations. It's just not. They're just not there yet.
Right, because I was gonna say it's pretty similar to just regular Little Mermaid right now.
Yeah, I was about to say this sounds exactly like the story of the Little Mermaid. You know, maybe if it was perhaps turned into a movie.
Man, imagine this is a movie.
Like maybe a live action one, remade of the original animation.
Oh, imagine.
Yeah, well, I think that about wraps it up. I have to go eat now, so I thank you all for your time. Even if some of you only got like maybe 3 lines total, sorry about that.
It's
that
fine.
was very light on dialogue today.
Yeah, you
it's
lucky people.
I get a sick and twisted pleasure out of knowing that Scrappy has to do most of the narration, and the story is all the narration.
I'm just wondering, like, is this the story we're doing until it's done, or like, what?
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be Scrappy narrating.
True.
If anyone wants to volunteer, they're free to do so, but you're going to have to discuss that amongst yourselves in the next...
Oh no, I would not be a good narrator.
There's only one way to find out. But
Get sent
No,
down the
don't
deep end.
volunteer me for either role. I'm
So-
sorry, I didn't mean I didn't mean to say that I enjoyed your suffering.
Yeah.
It's okay, everyone. It's implied for everyone else already. Tanner would say it outright, but everyone else just keeps it on the down low.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, that's all I've got for today. Yeah. More to come, I guess.
Yeah, looking forward to the next one. Hopefully I can make the next chapter.
Hopefully we start at a time that isn't midnight for Harry.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be very disappointed if the deviations aren't as crazy as I'm expecting them to be.
I'm not really expecting much of anything, to be honest. I'm just...
Yeah, me neither.
There is no Megazord fights. Just want to tell you all ahead of time.
The moment Scrappy said there weren't even transformation sequences, I was thinking, okay, yep, this is just Little Mermaid.
Just name swaps. Jeez. Also, Harry's been playing Rayman this whole time?
Yeah.
Always has been.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I guess that's all I got. Until next session, I bid you all a peaceful Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, man, same
Hope
to
you-
you. And same to the viewers.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
I have a wonderful weekend. Call your loved ones. Tell them you care, and have a good night.
Bye.
Chili, happy you got your screen fixed or keyboard fixed or
Yeah,
something.
if they're still here.
That's all I got.
Good night, everybody.
Quick, cue the bubbles.
Yeah, do the bubbles.
Okay.
Nice. Good night, everyone.
Nice.